Chase and American Express just destroyed 2 of their credit cards. At least, that's what the headlines will have you thinking. We're going to go over exactly what those changes are, how much they actually matter, whether or not you should be concerned about them, and if that interests you, it would really mean a lot if you'd subscribe. Starting with Chase, their most premium card that's available for public applications is the Chase Sapphire Reserves. Now this card has a huge annual fee, and one of the core benefits of this card that lots of people like is that it comes with lounge access. Now, unlike American Express, Chase does not have nearly as many Sapphire lounges as Amex has their Centurion lounges. So one of the ways that lots of these credit card companies like Capital One, like Chase, and then Amex also uses it, one of the ways that these companies give you access to more lounges than they actually have in their system is with something called Priority Pass. Priority Pass is this membership that gives you access to a network of lounges at airports worldwide. So if there isn't a Chase Sapphire lounge in this airport, and almost no airports have Chase Sapphire lounges yet, you can get into plenty of lounges using your Priority Pass membership. But oftentimes it will include experiences within the airport, and sometimes, and this is one of the things that Chase was really known for, especially with the Sapphire Reserve, it also gave you access to Priority Pass restaurants. And what that means is that at about 30 different locations worldwide, there are Priority Pass restaurants, usually in areas where there aren't Priority Pass lounges available, and you would get up to $28 covered. So essentially, you could order something less than $28 and then just pay the tip, because you would get $28 covered at a Priority Pass restaurant. And so at these locations where there aren't any lounges, that's really, really helpful. And the reason Chase included Priority Pass restaurants in addition to Priority Pass lounges is because Chase understands that their lounge offering isn't as comprehensive as American Express or even as comprehensive as Capital One. And so even though American Express stopped offering restaurants with their Priority Pass membership in 2019, and Capital One stopped offering restaurants with their Priority Pass memberships in 2023, Chase still had it because they recognized that their lounge network wasn't nearly as strong as the others. And so a lot of people were gravitated toward the Chase Sapphire Reserve because this Priority Pass was more valuable than the other Priority Pass memberships you'll get with your Capital One Venture X or your Amex Platinum or even your Altitude Reserve. But now Chase has announced that they are removing Priority Pass restaurants from the Chase Sapphire Reserve and also the other Chase cards that give you Priority Pass, such as the JP Morgan Reserve card and the Ritz-Carlton card. And if I had to guess, the reason Chase is removing Priority Pass restaurants is because the people who end up using them oftentimes only get the card for those Priority Pass restaurants. And for those users, it might not be profitable to offer it, given that most users will never end up going to a priority restaurant in their life or almost never end up going. But what this does mean is that the really passionate user base of Priority Pass restaurants, even though there are only about 30 Priority Pass restaurants worldwide, the really passionate user base that cares so much about them, they're going to be really upset about this, and they're going to be really mad online because they aren't the profitable customers anymore because they're taking advantage of this $28 credit to restaurants. And so it's just not worth it for these cards to offer. So you will get some headlines from enthusiasts who take advantage of it, but the average person who doesn't live in a city that has only a Priority Pass restaurant but no Priority Pass lounges in their airport will not notice a difference. And so this is a way that we can make sure that the annual fee for this card doesn't get raised too fast or by as much. Really, when it comes down to the Chase card, I understand why so many people are frustrated about the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Ritz-Carlton card, and the JP Morgan Reserve cards all losing this special perk that comes with the Chase Priority Pass. I understand why they're upset. But ultimately, I think that's probably for the better of these cards' ecosystem in the long run. Next, and this is a much bigger change to a card, is American Express revamping, as they're calling it. We're calling it devaluing the Hilton Honors American Express business card. Now, before you click off and say, oh, this just matters to businesses, why is this important to me? It turns out that a really, really high percentage of people who don't actually consider themselves business owners qualify for business cards because you can put things like your side hustles. So if you babysit on the side, if you sell things on eBay as a side hustle, your side hustle counts as a sole proprietorship for business cards so that you can actually qualify for these cards too. But what happened with this card is that it used to have something which people really loved, which was after you spend $15,000 a year on this card, you would end up getting what's called a free night certificate, which means that you can book any night of any points value pretty much at a Hilton property just for spending $15,000. And so that could be worth a ton of points. So what Amex has done here is Amex has taken away that free night certificate that they give you for a Hilton property once you hit 15K in spend. They're also taking away another free night certificate you would get once you have 60K in spend. And they're replacing the free night certificate with just offering 5x back on everything up to $100,000 in spend. You might think right away, 5x back is awesome. The Robinhood card only offers you 3x back. But you have to realize that these points are only worth around half a cent per point. If you work hard, you can get them to be worth a little more, but really they're worth around half a cent per point. So you're looking at 2.5% back on everything, which is valuable until you realize that you're stuck using it on a Hilton property. And I guess you could say the free night certificate, you're also stuck using it on a Hilton property. But the reason people don't like this is because before you were already getting 3x back on everything. So now if you spend 100K and you get that 5x back, you're really getting an extra 2% back on everything, which is really only an extra 1 cent per dollar spent back on everything. For $100,000, you're really only getting an extra $1,000 in value, but you could be getting $1,000 in value from only $15,000 of spend with the free night certificate, but now it's taking you $100,000 in spend to get that same value. So that's a big devaluation. But that's not the only change they're making to justify this. They are raising the annual fee, which means they know that they're going to have to offer something else to sweeten the pie, because replacing those free night certificates with just the increased 3x to 5x back, that's not going to cut it for them to get away with increasing the fee and people still finding value in this card. So what they've done is they've given you up to $240 a year in statement credits back when you spend at a Hilton property. But that's not just $240 at once, which would make the brand new increased annual fee of $195 a year worth it, because then you could spend $195 and you'll get $240, you're easily making your money back. What it is 4 $60 statement credits. So from January to March, you get $60. From April to June, you get $60, and so on. So you get up to $240 in statement credits if you stay at a Hilton hotel every single quarter, which most people don't do. So that makes it much, much harder to spend. And given that they're raising the annual fee, lots of people are saying on net, this is actually way worse. One quick note is there are rumors going around that gift cards to Hilton actually qualify for this $60 statement credit. I haven't personally verified that, so I don't know if that's the case. But if that is true, that makes it much easier to make the most of this card, because then you just have to remember each quarter to buy a $60 gift card, and you'll get $240 of gift card over the course of the year for your $195 annual fee. But if that doesn't end up working, I think I figured out why Amex had to do this. And it's not because they wanted to make us upset, it's because they want this card to be sustainable. Giving away the $240 in credits for $195 a year means people who actually stay at Hilton with some regular frequency will actually get a ton of value from this card, maybe even more than they did before, without having to spend $15,000. And Hilton is happy to cover that loss because they're getting business from a regular customer. But when it comes to the people who would try and just spend the $15,000 a year to get the free night, that free night certificate could be used at a property worth nearly $1,000 a night, maybe even more. And so that $15,000 in spend, once you take into account the 3x back that you also got on that $15,000 of spend, you're looking at a redemption of 10 to 15% return on spend for a customer that Hilton's only getting for one night a year, and given that swipe fees from cards are less than 3%, when you're not making any money on the high spenders because you're giving away such valuable perks, it's very hard to see how this card could have been profitable in the first place. So what they've done now is I think Hilton, for Hilton customers, and Amex together might still be taking a slight loss on this card for those who actually use the $60 quarterly credit. However, they're okay doing that because it's not nearly as expensive for them as the $15,000 free night certificate. And the fact that this card gives you free Hilton Honors Gold status and that they have incredibly generous sign-up bonuses. So for example, right now they're offering 175,000 points once you spend $8,000 in your first 6 months of having the card. So given that everything else about this card is so strong, the only thing they're taking away is this redemption that doesn't really seem to make sense from the outset. And I don't want to sound like I'm being apologetic towards Chase or Amex for devaluing their cards. I'm a credit card user just like you guys. I want these cards to be as valuable as they possibly can. I just think that there are some things that we have to understand about the life cycle of these different cards in order for this to actually be a profitable game for us long term, which is that these cards are all based around how much these credit card companies and brands can pay in order to get a profitable customer. And so at the beginning, when you launch a new card, you're going to have to offer some crazy high benefit for people to actually consider switching to you. So we saw that with the Bilt card when they offered 1x on rent. We're seeing that with the Robinhood card when they're offering 3x back on everything. We saw that with the Chase Sapphire Reserve when they had restaurants for Priority Pass. We saw that with this Hilton Honors Business card when they had a free night certificate once you spend $15,000 a year on that card. And these are all really powerful redemptions, but they're not all sustainable. And so we want the credit card companies to keep running these experiments, because if we stay on top of our game and we take advantage of these benefits while they're out there, we can benefit from a lot of programs that the card issuers might not end up making any money from. But understandably, if they're going to experiment with all these different programs, even for years on end, not all of them are going to be profitable, but it's in our best interest to encourage them to try and to understand that the ones that aren't profitable, they're going to boot and they're going to replace with other ones that will at some point be more profitable in the future. Here's another good example. In the credit card world, we love complaining about point devaluations, but we don't stop to realize that sign-up bonuses now are several times higher than they used to be. So yes, points are being devalued, but at the same time, it's easier than ever to earn points. So just like inflation works in the regular world, so too inflation works in the points world. Just like in the regular world, you have promotions to try and get people in your door, and you have loss leaders, those also exist in the credit card world. And instead of being so upset and frustrated when these changes happen, we should encourage the credit card companies to have more experiments like this. Make sure they get good PR when they try new things and when they make them last, because that's how they'll actually try to give us the most value in the long term. So I hope my perspective was valuable to you at least a little bit. And if you like this video, I'm releasing new content every week, and a like or a subscription would be super appreciated. And if I missed anything, as always, please let everyone know down in the comments below. I'm happy to pin comments if I've made any mistakes.